Amara clutched her phone with her one good hand. The other arm hung limp at her side, the bone fractured in 2 places, the white silk of her wedding dress now stained with tears she could not stop. The honeymoon suite smelled of roses and champagne, a cruel mockery of the nightmare that had begun just 3 hours into her marriage. Preston had smiled at their guests, danced with her like a gentleman, and the moment the last car pulled away from the estate, he became something else entirely. Something his family had hidden from hers during the rushed engagement. Something her father had ignored because Preston came from old money and connections. Now she understood why his first wife had disappeared. Why no one asked questions. She could hear him downstairs laughing with his brothers, celebrating what he called breaking her improperly. Her fingers trembled as she typed the message to her mother. "He broke my arm. Said I am his slave now and my family cannot do anything. Please help me." 1847, Thornwood Estate. She hit send and prayed. Across the city, in a penthouse that overlooked the glittering skyline like a predator watching prey, Nikolai Valderon set down his glass of century-old blood wine. His phone buzzed. He rarely received messages. Those who knew him understood that disturbing the Vampire King required either tremendous courage or tremendous stupidity. He glanced at the screen, expecting perhaps his sister with news from the old country. Instead, he read the words of a stranger. A woman. A bride. Broken and desperate. He read it again. Her family cannot do anything. A slow smile spread across his ancient face, the kind of smile that had preceded the fall of kingdoms and the extinction of bloodlines. He leaned back in his chair and spoke to the empty room. "Well, little bride, your family may be powerless. But you accidentally reached out to mine. And we have been doing something about men like your husband for over 800 years. He stood, adjusting the cuffs of his black shirt, and called out to the shadows. "Elijah. Rebecca. We have plans tonight. Cancel whatever nonsense you had arranged. We are attending a wedding. Uninvited. My favorite kind. Now before we go any further, I need you to do something for me. If you are watching this and you have not yet subscribed, I need to ask you a question. Do you really want to miss what happens when a 1,000-year-old vampire king shows up at this wedding? Do you want to miss the look on Preston's face when he realizes what just walked through his door? I stayed up creating this story for you. I put my heart into every word. The least you can do is hit that subscribe button and join the fastest growing vampire love stories community on YouTube. We have so much planned for you, and trust me, you are special and you do not want to miss what is coming. Also drop a comment right now and tell me where you are watching from. I would love to know which part of the world is enjoying this story with me tonight. Are you from the United States? The United Kingdom? Nigeria? Philippines? Germany? Tell me in the comments. I read every single one. Now let us continue. Amara nearly dropped the phone when it buzzed. Her heart froze. Had Preston seen the message somehow? Had her mother accidentally replied something that would make things worse? She looked at the screen with blurring vision and saw a response from a number she did not recognize. The message read, "This is not your mother. But I am going to help you anyway. Stay exactly where you are. Do not attempt to leave. Do not let him know you reached out. And when you hear screaming downstairs, do not be afraid. That will simply be justice arriving fashionably late to your wedding reception. I will be there within the hour. Keep breathing, little bride. Sincerely, someone whose family can do quite a lot actually." Amara stared at the words. Her mind raced. Was this a trap? A cruel joke? Some friend of Preston testing her loyalty? But something in those words, something ancient and certain, made her believe. Made her hope when hope had died hours ago. Miles away, Nikolai was already walking toward his car. His sister Rebecca appeared beside him, her blonde hair flowing behind her. Another rescue mission, brother? I thought we retired from saving damsels in the 15th century. Nikolai opened the car door and smiled. We did. But this one reached out to me directly. Fate has a sense of humor, Rebecca. And tonight I intend to laugh along with it. Besides, he glanced at his phone again, reading the word slave and her family cannot do anything. Besides, it has been far too long since I reminded the city what happens when certain men believe themselves untouchable. Elijah joined them, straightening his tie. And what exactly are we walking into, Nikolai? A wedding estate. Old money. New cruelty. A husband who broke his bride's arm on their wedding night and told her she belongs to him now. Elijah's jaw tightened. The calm, composed brother rarely showed emotion, but his eyes darkened. Then I suppose we shall teach him the error of his ways. Rebecca slid into the back seat. I do love a good teaching moment. Nikolai started the engine. The city lights reflected in his ancient eyes as he pulled onto the road. His voice dropped lower, almost tender in a terrifying way. She does not know what I am yet. She does not know what is coming for her husband. But she will learn tonight that some monsters exist to punish other monsters. And I have been perfecting that art for centuries. Amara read the message 7 more times. Each time it made less sense. Each time it felt more like madness. Who responds to a wrong number with a promise of rescue? Who speaks of screaming injustice like they are discussing dinner plans? She almost convinced herself to delete the message and forget it. Maybe she should just endure. Maybe her mother had been right all those years. Men are difficult. Marriage requires sacrifice. Perhaps a broken arm was simply the price of the life Preston's money could provide. But then she heard his footsteps on the stairs. Heavy. Confident. Coming back for more. And that small flame of hope she wanted to extinguish began burning brighter. Let him be real, she whispered to no one. Let this stranger be real. In the car, Rebecca studied her brother's face. You are being unusually quiet, Nick. This is not like you. Usually you are making jokes about dismemberment by now. Nikolai kept his eyes on the road. I am thinking. Dangerous activity for you. What about? Nikolai did not answer immediately. He was asking himself the same question his sister was implying. Why did this message affect him differently? He had seen cruelty for 1,000 years. He had witnessed empires built on broken bodies. Why did this one woman, this stranger, this accidental text make him grip the steering wheel like he was going to war? Perhaps it was the simplicity of her words. The quiet desperation. No dramatic plea. No begging. Just facts. He broke my arm. I am his slave. My family cannot help. It reminded him of someone. A voice from centuries ago. A woman he could not save because he had not yet become what he was now. Elijah spoke from the passenger seat. You know we cannot simply kill him, Nikolai. Not without understanding the situation fully. Nikolai laughed, but there was no warmth in it. Dear brother. I have no intention of killing him quickly. First, I want him to understand what he has done. I want him to feel small. I want his legacy reduced to ash. And then, only then, we shall discuss the matter of his mortality. Back at the estate, Preston pushed open the bedroom door. He was drunk. His eyes were cruel. He looked at Amara sitting on the bed holding her broken arm and smiled. Already learned your place, I see. Good girl. Now get up. My brothers want to see you. Want to see what I bought with this marriage." Amara stood slowly. Her legs shook, but she kept her face blank. She thought of the message. The hour the stranger promised. She just needed to survive until then. Just needed to breathe and believe that somewhere out there, someone was coming. Preston grabbed her good arm and yanked her toward the door. Time to show them what obedience looks like. Amara said nothing. But inside her heart whispered, "Please hurry." The front doors of Thornwood Estate did not open. They exploded inward. Wood and iron scattered across the marble floor like confetti at a funeral. Preston's brothers stumbled backward, drinks crashing to the ground, their drunken laughter dying in their throats. Nikolai walked in first. Calm. Unhurried. His shoes clicked against the floor with the patience of a predator who knows his prey cannot escape. Behind him, Elijah and Rebecca flanked like shadows given form. "Good evening, gentlemen." Nikolai's voice carried through the room like velvet wrapped around a blade. "I do hope I am not interrupting anything important." "Actually, no. I hope I am interrupting something very important. Makes this more satisfying." Preston shoved Amara behind him, not out of protection but possession. "Who the hell are you? This is private property. Do you know who my family is?" Nikolai tilted his head and smiled. "I know exactly who your family is. Third-generation wealth. Railroad money built on broken immigrant backs. Your grandfather bribed his way out of 4 criminal investigations. Your father had a rather unfortunate gambling problem that cost 3 men their lives. And you," he stepped closer, "you like to break women who cannot fight back." Preston's face went pale. His brothers shifted nervously. One reached for his phone, but Rebecca was beside him in a blur, the device crushed in her palm before he could blink. "I would not do that, love." She smiled sweetly. "We are just getting started." Amara watched from behind Preston. Her heart hammered against her ribs. The stranger from the text. It was him. But he was not human. The way he moved. The way his eyes seemed to hold centuries inside them. She should have been terrified. Instead, she felt something she had not felt in months. Safe. Nikolai's eyes found hers over Preston's shoulder. For a moment, just a moment, his expression softened. "There you are, little bride. I apologize for the dramatic entrance. I find doors rather optional when the occasion calls for it." Amara could not speak. Could not move. But something in her chest unlocked. Something that had been caged since the day she agreed to this marriage. Preston stepped forward, trying to reclaim control. "I do not know what you think you are doing, but my family has connections. Police. Judges. You will regret this." Nikolai laughed. The sound echoed through the room, ancient and cold. Connections. How adorable. He leaned in close enough for Preston to smell the centuries on his breath. "I have spent 1,000 years making connections. Kings have knelt before me. Empires have crumbled at my suggestion. Your judges and policemen are children playing dress up. And you," he placed one finger against Preston's chest, "you hurt a woman under my protection now. Do you understand what that means?" Preston tried to speak, but no words came. Nikolai answered for him. "It means your family's legacy ends tonight. Every business. Every property. Every dollar with your name attached. Gone. And that is before we discuss what happens to you personally." Elijah moved through the room, securing the brothers. Rebecca positioned herself near the staircase. The estate that had felt like a prison moments ago now felt like a courtroom. And Nikolai was judge, jury, and executioner all at once. Nikolai extended his hand toward Amara. "Come here, little bride. Stand beside me. You will want to watch what happens next. Consider it a wedding gift from a stranger who does not tolerate men like your husband." Amara hesitated. Preston grabbed her wrist, squeezing hard. "She is my wife. She belongs to me." What happened next was too fast for human eyes. One moment Preston was gripping her wrist. The next he was across the room, pinned against the wall, Nikolai's hand around his throat. His feet dangled 6 inches off the ground. Nikolai spoke softly, almost gently. "She belongs to no one but herself. And you will never touch her again. In fact, you will never touch anyone again. I am going to make certain of that." He released Preston, who crumpled to the floor gasping. Nikolai turned back to Amara and extended his hand once more. This time his voice was different. Tender. Patient. "You are safe now. I give you my word. And my word has held kingdoms together for centuries." Amara looked at his hand. At his eyes. At the monster who had come to save her from another monster. Slowly, carefully, she placed her trembling fingers in his palm. Nikolai smiled. A real smile this time. "There we are. Now let us find someone to fix that arm. And then we shall discuss the complete destruction of your husband's entire bloodline. I find revenge is best served with proper medical attention first." Despite everything, despite the pain and fear and madness of the night, Amara almost laughed. "Let me ask you something before we continue. If you were Amara in this moment, would you trust Nikolai? Would you take the hand of a creature you do not understand to escape the man who swore to love you? Think about it. Drop your answer in the comments. I want to know what you would do." Nikolai brought Amara to his penthouse. Elijah stayed behind to handle the legal destruction of Preston's family while Rebecca kept watch over the brothers. A private doctor, one who had served the Valderon family for decades and knew better than to ask questions, set Amara's arm in a proper cast. She sat on a velvet couch overlooking the city, her arm now stabilized, her wedding dress exchanged for simple clothes Rebecca had sent ahead. The penthouse was vast and cold and beautiful. Like its owner. Nikolai poured himself a drink and sat across from her. He did not speak immediately. He simply watched her. Studied her. Not like Preston had studied her, looking for weakness. But like someone trying to understand a painting. Finally Amara broke the silence. "Why did you come? You do not know me. That message was an accident. You could have ignored it." Nikolai swirled the dark liquid in his glass. "I could have. I have ignored many things over the centuries. Wars. Famines. The rise and fall of civilizations. I am not what you would call a hero, little bride." "Then why?" He was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke again, his voice carried a weight she had not heard before. 847 years ago, I received a letter. Not a text message, obviously. We were still using parchment and candlelight like proper dramatic immortals. The letter was from a woman named Celeste. She was trapped in a marriage arranged by her father to a lord who believed cruelty was his birthright. Amara listened. Her broken arm throbbed, but she ignored it. Nikolai continued. She begged for help. Said her family could do nothing. Said she was his property now and no one would save her. The letter took 3 weeks to reach me. By the time I arrived, she was dead. He had beaten her for trying to escape. Threw her body in the river like discarded furniture. His jaw tightened. His eyes grew darker. I found him, of course. I made his death last 11 days. I dismantled his family's name so thoroughly that history forgot they ever existed. But none of that brought her back. None of that erased the 3 weeks I wasted. Amara felt tears sliding down her cheeks. She did not wipe them away. Nikolai looked at her directly. So when I received your message tonight, when I read those words that sounded exactly like her letter, I decided that this time I would not be late. This time the monster would arrive before the tragedy. He smiled sadly. You asked me why I came. That is why. Because 8 centuries ago I failed someone, and I have never forgotten it. I do not forget anything. It is both my gift and my curse. Amara whispered. I am sorry about Celeste. Nikolai shook his head. Do not apologize. You did nothing wrong. You survived. That is all that matters tonight. She hesitated before asking her next question. What are you exactly? I saw what you did to Preston. No human moves like that. Nikolai set down his glass. I am a vampire. Over 1,000 years old. I have killed more people than your history books have recorded. I have built empires and destroyed them out of boredom. I am not a good man by any definition you have been taught. Amara should have run. Should have screamed. Should have felt the terror that any rational person would feel sitting across from a self-confessed immortal killer. Instead, she asked something unexpected. Did you ever find love? In all those centuries? Nikolai blinked. For once, the ancient creature who had seen everything looked genuinely surprised. That is your question? Not how do I kill? Not how do I survive sunlight? Not am I going to drain your blood? Amara shrugged with her good shoulder. You saved my life. If you wanted me dead, I would be dead already. So I am asking something that matters more. Did you ever find love? Nikolai leaned back. His expression shifted. Vulnerability flickered beneath the arrogance for just a moment. I have found many things over the centuries. Power. Revenge. Family. But love. He paused. Love has always been complicated for creatures like me. We live too long. We remember too much. We watch everyone we care about turn to dust while we remain. It makes attachment feel like a promise of future grief. Amara nodded slowly. That sounds lonely. Nikolai studied her again. That new look in his eyes. Something he had not felt in centuries. You are a peculiar woman, Amara. Most humans cower when they learn what I am. You ask about my love life. Amara almost smiled. I just escaped a man who saw me as property. I am not afraid of monsters anymore. I married one. At least you are honest about what you are. Nikolai laughed. A real laugh this time. Warm despite himself. Fair point, little bride. Fair point indeed. The silence that followed was different. Softer. Something unspoken passed between them. Two wounded souls recognizing each other across the vast distance of their different lives. Meanwhile, back at Thornwood Estate, Elijah had discovered something in Preston's office. Files. Documents. Evidence of a pattern. Amara was not Preston's first wife. She was his fourth. The other 3 had all died under mysterious circumstances. Accidents the police never investigated. Disappearances that wealthy families paid to keep quiet. Elijah called Nikolai immediately. Brother, you need to know something. This situation is worse than we thought. Preston has done this before. Multiple times. His family has been covering up his crimes for over a decade. Nikolai's expression went cold. His playful demeanor vanished. The ancient predator returned. How many women, Elijah? At least 3 confirmed. Possibly more. There are payments to hospitals, coroners, police officials. A systematic operation to protect him. Nikolai ended the call. He looked at Amara, who had heard enough to understand. 3 women. His voice was barely a whisper. 3 women before you. All dead. All forgotten. All erased because his family had enough money to make the truth disappear. Amara's face went pale. I did not know. They told me his first wife left him. That she ran off with someone else. Nikolai stood. Walked to the window. The city lights reflected in eyes that had seen the worst of humanity for 1,000 years. This changes things, little bride. Originally I planned to simply destroy his wealth and reputation. Make him suffer slowly. Poetically. But now, he turned back to face her. Now I am going to do what I do best. I am going to end his bloodline entirely. Every uncle who looked the other way. Every cousin who cashed the checks. Every brother who laughed while he hurt you. They all share the guilt. They all share the punishment. Amara stood on shaky legs. What about me? What happens to me now? Nikolai's expression softened again. That impossible contrast. Monster and protector. Killer and savior. You stay here. Under my protection. Until I am certain every threat to you has been eliminated. After that, he paused, after that you are free. To go wherever you wish. To become whoever you want to be. I will make sure you have the resources to start over completely. Amara took a step toward him. And if I do not want to leave? Nikolai froze. For a creature who had lived a millennium, he suddenly looked uncertain. What do you mean? I mean, Amara said quietly, that you are the first person who has ever fought for me. The first person who saw me as something worth saving. I do not know what happens next. I do not know what any of this means. But I know I feel safer in this room with a 1,000-year-old vampire than I ever felt in my own home. Nikolai was silent for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was rough. You do not know what you are saying. I am not a safe choice. I am not a kind man. I have done terrible things and I will do terrible things again. Amara met his eyes. Then we have something in common. I survived terrible things. And I am still standing. For the first time in centuries, Nikolai Valderon did not have a clever response. The days that followed were strange. Peaceful in a way Amara had forgotten peace could feel. Nikolai gave her a room in the penthouse with a view of the sunrise, something he himself could not enjoy without specialized glass. She did not ask why he gave her the best room. She simply accepted it. Rebecca visited often, bringing clothes and conversation and the kind of sisterly energy Amara had never experienced. Her own family had always treated her as a commodity. Something to marry off for advantage. Rebecca treated her like a person. You know, Rebecca said one afternoon while painting Amara's nails on her good hand, my brother has not been this distracted in centuries. He actually forgot about a revenge plot he had been planning for 80 years. 80 years, Amara. Do you understand how obsessive he is? He once hunted a man for 200 years because the man insulted his shoes. Amara laughed. His shoes? Rebecca nodded seriously. They were very nice shoes, to be fair. Italian leather. Custom made. But still. 200 years. That is Nikolai. He never forgets. He never forgives. And he certainly never gets distracted by anything. Until you. Amara looked toward the study where Nikolai spent most of his time. She could see him through the glass doors, speaking on the phone, likely orchestrating another piece of Preston's destruction. Every day brought news of another company shut down, another account frozen, another family member facing sudden legal consequences. Nikolai worked with surgical precision. He is thorough, Amara said quietly. Rebecca smiled knowingly. He is showing off for you. Trust me. I have known him for 1,000 years. This level of dramatic revenge is his love language. That evening, Nikolai found Amara on the balcony. The city spread beneath them like a carpet of lights. She was wrapped in a blanket, her cast resting on the railing, her eyes distant. He stood beside her in silence for a moment. Then spoke. You should be sleeping. Humans require absurd amounts of rest. 8 hours every single day. Tremendously inefficient species. Amara smiled slightly. Says the creature who probably broods in the dark for 8 hours instead. Nikolai raised an eyebrow. I do not brood. I contemplate. There is a significant difference. Brooding is for teenagers and poets. Contemplating is for ancient immortals with refined tastes. Amara turned to look at him. Do you ever get tired of being alone? The question caught him off guard again. She had a talent for that. For slipping past his defenses with simple, honest words. He considered lying. Considered deflecting with humor. Instead, he answered truthfully. Every single day. But solitude is safer. When you live as long as I have, you learn that attachment is just grief waiting to happen. Everyone leaves eventually. Everyone dies. Except me. Amara nodded slowly. My mother used to say that being alone was better than being with the wrong person. I spent years believing her. Then I married Preston and realized she was right, but for the wrong reasons. Being alone is better than being with someone who hurts you. But being with someone who truly sees you. She looked at Nikolai. That might be worth the risk. Nikolai held her gaze. You have known me for 4 days, little bride. Amara shrugged. You have known me for 4 days. But you came anyway. You saved me anyway. You are destroying an entire family dynasty because a stranger sent you an accidental text message. Time does not seem to matter much to you. Why should it matter to me? Nikolai was quiet. The wind moved through his dark hair. For a moment he looked almost human. Almost vulnerable. Almost like a man instead of a monster. You are dangerous, he finally said. Amara frowned. I am a human woman with a broken arm. You are a 1,000-year-old vampire. How am I the dangerous one? Because, Nikolai stepped closer, because you make me want things I stopped wanting centuries ago. You make me imagine futures I have no right to imagine. You make me feel like perhaps there is something worth preserving in this world besides revenge and family legacy. Amara's breath caught. Nikolai continued, his voice lower now. I have loved before. Briefly. Tragically. It always ended in blood and loss. I told myself never again. Built walls so high that even my siblings could not fully breach them. And then you sent a text message to the wrong number, and somehow those walls started crumbling. He reached out and gently touched her cheek. His fingers were cool, but the gesture was impossibly tender. I do not know what this is, he admitted. I do not know what we are becoming. But I know that when I look at you, I do not see a victim I rescued. I see a woman who survived. A woman with fire in her eyes despite everything. A woman who asks ancient vampires about love instead of running away screaming. And that, little bride, is the most terrifying thing I have encountered in 1,000 years. Amara leaned into his touch. Then I guess we are both terrified. Nikolai smiled. That crooked cross-like smile that held danger and warmth in equal measure. Then let us be terrified together. At least for tonight. They stayed on that balcony until dawn began painting the sky. Talking. Sharing stories. He told her about the first time he saw the ocean, back when ships were made of wood and stars were the only navigation. She told him about her childhood dreams of becoming an artist before her father convinced her that women should seek security, not passion. Nikolai listened to every word. Asked questions. Laughed at her jokes. And slowly, carefully, something began growing between them. Something neither of them had expected. Something fragile and new and terrifying in the best way. When Amara finally fell asleep on the couch as morning light filled the room, Nikolai covered her with a blanket and sat watching her breathe. His sister found him there an hour later. Rebecca spoke softly. You love her. Nikolai did not deny it. I barely know her. Since when has that ever mattered to our kind? We feel everything deeply, Nick. Immortality does not dull emotion. It amplifies it. And I see how you look at her. I have not seen that look in your eyes since. Do not say her name, Nikolai interrupted quietly. That was different. Was it? Rebecca sat beside him. Or are you just afraid of feeling this again because you know how badly it can hurt? Nikolai did not answer. But his silence said everything. Rebecca placed a hand on his shoulder. She is not Celeste. She is here. She is alive. And she looks at you like you hung the moon. Do not waste this chance because you are afraid of ghosts. Nikolai watched Amara sleep. Her face peaceful for the first time since he met her. Her breathing steady and calm. Perhaps his sister was right. Perhaps this was different. Perhaps 8 centuries of grief had finally led him to something worth holding on to. But fate, as Nikolai knew better than anyone, had a cruel sense of humor. And the peace they had found was about to shatter completely. The shattering came on the 7th day. Not from Preston directly. He was too broken by then, watching his empire crumble from a holding cell where Elijah had arranged for him to await trial. No. The destruction came from somewhere Amara never expected. The past. A woman arrived at the penthouse. Beautiful in the way that ancient things are beautiful. Dangerous in the way that only immortals can be dangerous. Her name was Vivian, and she had history with Nikolai. The kind of history that spans centuries and leaves scars on the soul. Nikolai, darling. Vivian's voice dripped with poison honey as she walked into the living room where Amara sat reading. I heard you found yourself a new pet. How quaint. Does this one know what happened to the last human you tried to save? Nikolai appeared instantly, stepping between Vivian and Amara. His voice was ice. You should not be here, Vivian. We ended things 3 centuries ago. Quite permanently, as I recall. Vivian smiled. Oh, we did. But I heard the most delicious rumors about the great Nikolai Valderon playing hero again. Rescuing damsels. Getting attached. I simply had to see it for myself. She looked past him at Amara. Has he told you about Celeste yet? Amara stood slowly. He told me she died. That he could not save her in time. Vivian laughed. That is what he told you? Oh, sweet girl. He did not fail to save Celeste. He killed her himself. The room went silent. Amara felt the floor shift beneath her feet. Nikolai's jaw tightened. That is not what happened. Is it not? Vivian circled him like a shark. You turned her, Nikolai. Made her a vampire against her will because you could not bear to let her die. And when she woke up hating what she had become, hating you for taking her humanity, she begged you to end it. And you did. You drove the stake through her heart yourself. So noble. So tragic. She turned to Amara. That is who your savior really is. A man who loves so obsessively that he destroys the very thing he claims to protect. Amara looked at Nikolai. Her eyes searching for denial. For explanation. For anything that would make this untrue. Nikolai's face was stone. But his eyes. His ancient terrible eyes held something she had never seen before. Shame. Is it true? Amara's voice was barely a whisper. Nikolai did not speak for a long moment. When he did, his voice was hollow. It is more complicated than she makes it sound. But you turned her against her will. You took her choice away. Silence. And when she wanted to die, you killed her. More silence. Amara felt tears burning her eyes. You told me you were not a good man. I thought I understood what that meant. But this. She stepped backward. You are no different than Preston. You saw something you wanted and you took it regardless of what she wanted. Regardless of consent. Nikolai flinched as if she had struck him. Do not compare me to that pathetic excuse for a man. Why not? Amara's voice rose. He thought I was his property. You thought Celeste was yours. The only difference is the number of centuries you have had to justify it to yourself. Vivian watched with obvious delight. Trouble in paradise already. How unfortunate. Nikolai turned on her with sudden violence. Get out. Before I remove your head and ship it to every enemy you have ever made. Vivian raised her hands in mock surrender. I am leaving. My work here is done. She glanced at Amara one final time. Run, little human. While you still can. His love is a cage. Ask anyone who has ever been trapped in it. She vanished as quickly as she had appeared. The penthouse felt enormous in the silence that followed. Nikolai stood motionless. Amara stood with her arms wrapped around herself, her cast suddenly feeling heavier than before. Amara, Nikolai began. Do not. Her voice cracked. Do not try to explain. Do not try to make it sound romantic or tragic or justified. You took a woman's choice away. You decided you knew better than she did about her own life. Her own death. That is not love, Nikolai. That is control. Nikolai's composure finally cracked. I was different then. Younger. More desperate. I could not watch her die. I thought if I gave her eternity she would eventually understand. Eventually forgive me. But she did not. No. His voice broke on the word. She did not. She woke up screaming. Spent 50 years trying to escape me. And when she finally begged for death, I was too much of a coward to refuse. So yes. I killed the woman I loved because my love had already killed everything she was. Amara wiped her eyes. And now you are doing it again. Rescuing me. Protecting me. Making me dependent on you. Is this just another obsession, Nikolai? Another woman you will cage in golden chains until she breaks. No. He stepped toward her, but she stepped back. That is not what this is. How do I know that? How do I know I am not just another Celeste? Another project for you to fix and control and eventually destroy? Nikolai had no answer. For the first time in 1,000 years, words failed him completely. Amara moved toward the door. I need to leave. I need to think. I cannot be here right now. Where will you go? Your husband's family is still dangerous. You are not safe out there. Amara laughed bitterly. Maybe I am not safe in here either. Maybe I traded one monster for another and was too grateful to see it. The words hit Nikolai harder than any weapon ever had. He watched her walk toward the elevator. Every instinct screamed at him to stop her. To explain. To make her understand that she was different. That this was different. But he had done that before. With Celeste. He had insisted he knew best. He had refused to let her go. And it had destroyed them both. So he stood frozen as Amara stepped into the elevator. As the doors closed between them. As the woman who had accidentally texted her way into his cold dead heart disappeared from his life. Rebecca found him an hour later. Still standing in the same spot. Still staring at the elevator doors. What happened? Where is Amara? Nikolai's voice was empty. Gone. She left. And I let her go. Why? Because she was right. His eyes finally moved, finding his sister's face. I am a monster, Rebecca. I have always been a monster. And monsters do not get happy endings. We get exactly what we deserve. Loneliness. Regret. An eternity of remembering everyone we have ever failed. Rebecca grabbed his shoulders. Listen to me. You are not the same man who turned Celeste. You have spent 800 years carrying that guilt, learning from that mistake. Amara is scared and confused, and someone just filled her head with poison. But she cares about you, Nick. I saw it. Do not let Vivian win. Do not let your past destroy your future. Nikolai shook his head. She asked me if she was just another obsession. Another woman I would cage and break. And I could not answer her. Because part of me, the darkest part, knows that she might be right. I do not know how to love without consuming. Without possessing. It is the curse of what we are. Then learn. Rebecca's voice was fierce. For once in your eternal life, learn to love differently. Learn to let someone choose you instead of trapping them. Amara is not Celeste. And you are not who you were 8 centuries ago. But you will never prove that if you stand here feeling sorry for yourself while she walks into danger. Nikolai looked at his sister. The weight of 1,000 years pressed down on his shoulders. The memory of every failure. Every loss. Every woman he had loved and destroyed. But beneath all that weight, something else flickered. Something small and stubborn and refusing to die. Hope. Find her, Rebecca said. Not to control her. Not to cage her. Find her and give her the choice you never gave Celeste. Let her decide if you are worth the risk. And if she walks away, you let her go. Forever. That is what real love looks like, Nick. It is terrifying and vulnerable and completely out of your control. Nikolai was silent for a long moment. Then he moved. Faster than human eyes could track. Toward the elevator. Toward the city. Toward the woman who had somehow become the most important thing in his immortal existence. He did not know if she would forgive him, did not know if he deserved forgiveness. But he knew one thing with absolute certainty. He had to try. Because for the first time in 800 years, someone had made him want to be better than the monster he had always been. And that was worth fighting for. Amara walked through the city streets without direction. The night air was cold against her tear-stained cheeks. Her arm throbbed beneath the cast. Every shadow felt like a threat. Every passing car made her flinch. She found herself at a small park, empty at this hour. She sat on a bench beneath a flickering streetlight and tried to breathe. Her mind replayed everything. The text message, the rescue, the stories Nikolai had shared, the way he looked at her like she was something precious, something worth protecting. And then Vivian's words, the truth about Celeste, the horror of what he had done. Was he a monster? Yes. He had admitted it himself from the beginning. He had never pretended to be anything else. But was he the same monster who had turned Celeste against her will? Was he still that desperate obsessive creature who could not accept loss? Amara did not know. And that uncertainty terrified her more than Preston ever had. With Preston, the evil was simple, obvious. He hurt her because he enjoyed hurting. There was no complexity, no redemption, no hope for change. But Nikolai was 1,000 contradictions wrapped in ancient skin. A killer who rescued strangers. A monster who remembered every wrong done to him but also every wrong he had done to others. A man who had spent 8 centuries carrying guilt like chains around his soul. She remembered the way he had touched her cheek on the balcony. Cool fingers. Infinite gentleness. She remembered how he had listened to her childhood dreams without interrupting. How he had laughed at her jokes. How he had given her the room with the best sunrise view even though sunlight could kill him. Those were not the actions of a man who wanted to cage her. But fear whispered louder than logic. What if he changes? What if his obsession grows? What if you become another Celeste and there is no one to save you from him? Amara buried her face in her hands. She thought about her options. She could disappear. Nikolai had promised her resources to start over. She could take the money and run. Build a new life somewhere far from vampires and monsters and men who thought they owned her. But even as she considered it, her heart rejected the idea. Because running meant spending the rest of her life wondering, what if Nikolai was different? What if she had found something real and thrown it away because a jealous ex-lover had poisoned her mind? She pulled out her phone, stared at the screen. The same phone that had started all of this. The accidental text that had changed everything. Her finger hovered over Nikolai's number. Across the city, Nikolai moved through the shadows. He had checked every hospital, every shelter, every place a frightened woman might seek refuge. His supernatural senses stretched to their limits, searching for her heartbeat among millions. Elijah called him twice. Rebecca sent messages he did not read. The only thing that mattered was finding her. Not to force her back. Not to cage her. But to say what he should have said before. To give her the truth. All of it. And then to let her choose. He found her scent near a small park. Followed it through winding streets until he saw her. Sitting alone on a bench. Phone in her hand. Crying. He stopped at the edge of the shadows. His instinct screamed at him to approach. To hold her. To promise that everything would be all right. But he remembered Rebecca's words. Real love means letting her choose. So he stayed hidden, watching, waiting, giving her the space he had never given Celeste. Amara felt something. A presence. She looked up and scanned the darkness but saw nothing. Yet somehow she knew. Nikolai? Her voice was small, uncertain. Silence. Then his voice came from the shadows. Soft. Stripped of all arrogance. All charm. All the armor he had built over 1,000 years. I am here. I have been searching for you. But I will not come closer unless you want me to. Amara's heart hammered. Why not? Because I spent 800 years making decisions for people I claimed to love. Deciding what they needed. What was best for them. Refusing to accept that they might choose differently than I wanted. Nikolai paused. I am done being that man. If you want me to leave, I will leave. If you want me to stay away forever, I will honor that. But if there is any part of you that wants to hear what I have to say, I am asking for 5 minutes. Just 5 minutes. And then the choice is yours. Amara was silent for a long moment. The streetlight flickered above her. The wind carried the scent of rain coming. Finally she spoke. Come out of the shadows, Nikolai. I cannot have this conversation with darkness. He stepped forward. Into the light. And for the first time since she had known him, he looked vulnerable. No smirk. No confidence. No ancient predator certainty. Just a man. A monster. A 1,000-year-old creature who had finally found something he could not bear to lose. He stopped 10 feet away. Keeping distance. Respecting boundaries he had never respected before. Amara. I need you to understand something. What Vivian told you was true. I did turn Celeste against her will. I did kill her when she begged for death. Those are sins I will carry for eternity. There is no justification. No excuse. I was selfish and desperate, and I destroyed the woman I loved because I could not accept losing her. Amara listened. Her eyes never leaving his face. Nikolai continued. But that was 800 years ago. 800 years of guilt. 800 years of learning what I did wrong. 800 years of swearing I would never make that mistake again. When I found you, when I read your message, something in me woke up. Not the obsessive, desperate creature who turned Celeste. Something different. Something that wanted to protect you without possessing you. Something that wanted to see you heal and grow and become whoever you were meant to be, even if that person had no room for me. His voice cracked slightly. You asked me if you were just another obsession. Another woman I would cage and break. The honest answer is I do not know. I have never loved anyone the way I am beginning to love you. And that terrifies me. Because I know what I am capable of. I know the darkness inside me. But I also know that standing here, watching you cry, knowing I might lose you forever, I feel something I have not felt in centuries. What? Amara whispered. Willing to change. Nikolai took a shaky breath. I am willing to learn how to love without controlling. How to protect without possessing. How to let you choose your own path even if that path leads away from me. I do not know if I can succeed. I do not know if a 1,000-year-old monster can truly become something better. But for you, Amara, I want to try. That has to count for something. Amara stood slowly. Her legs unsteady. Her heart torn between fear and hope. How do I know you will not change? How do I know that in a year or 10 years or 100 years, you will not become the same man who turned Celeste? Nikolai met her eyes. You do not. That is the terrifying truth of loving anyone, human or vampire. There are no guarantees, no promises that cannot be broken. All I can offer you is this moment. This man standing before you. This monster who is trying desperately to be something worthy of you. He took one step closer. Just one. I am not asking you to trust me completely. I am not asking you to forget what Vivian told you. I am asking for a chance to prove that I can be different. One day at a time. One choice at a time. And if I ever make you feel like a cage is closing around you, I want you to tell me. And I will let you go. No matter how much it destroys me. Amara felt tears sliding down her cheeks again. But these tears felt different. Cleaner somehow. She looked at this ancient creature. This monster. This man who had killed and conquered and destroyed. And she saw something she had never seen in Preston or her father or any man who had claimed to care about her. Genuine willingness to change. That is all I needed to hear, she whispered. Nikolai froze. What? Amara stepped toward him, closing the distance he had been too afraid to cross. I do not trust you completely. I do not know if this will work. I do not know if you can truly become the man you are promising to be. But I know that you came here tonight and gave me a choice. You stood in the shadows and waited for my permission. You did not demand or manipulate or control. She reached up and touched his face. That is not the same man who turned Celeste. That is someone trying to be better. Nikolai closed his eyes at her touch. Her warm human hand against his cold immortal skin. I will spend every day proving I am worthy of this chance, he said quietly. Amara smiled through her tears. You better. Because I am not Celeste. If you cage me, I will burn the cage down. And you with it. Nikolai laughed. A real laugh. Broken and relieved and full of emotions he had forgotten he could feel. I would expect nothing less, little bride. She leaned into him. He wrapped his arms around her carefully. Gently. Like she was something precious and fragile and infinitely valuable. They stood there in the flickering streetlight. Two broken people. Two survivors. Two souls who had found each other through an accidental text message and 1,000 years of pain. The rain began to fall. Soft and cold and cleansing. Neither of them moved. 6 months later, Amara stood on the balcony of the penthouse. The same balcony where she had first asked Nikolai about love. The same view of the city that had witnessed their first real conversation. But everything else had changed. Her arm had healed completely. The cast was a distant memory. The nightmares about Preston came less frequently now. Sometimes she slept through the entire night without waking in cold sweat. Those were the good nights. The nights when Nikolai held her and whispered stories of ancient cities and forgotten kingdoms until she drifted into peaceful dreams. Preston was gone. Not dead. Nikolai had decided that death was too merciful. Instead, Preston sat in a maximum security prison, convicted on multiple counts of murder after Elijah had ensured every piece of evidence reached the right authorities. His family's wealth had been seized. Their properties auctioned. Their name erased from every building and institution that had once celebrated their legacy. The brothers who had laughed while Preston hurt her were scattered. Broken. Facing their own legal consequences. One had fled the country only to find that Nikolai's reach extended far beyond American borders. He was found 3 weeks later in a small village in Eastern Europe, delivered to local authorities with a detailed file of his crimes. Nikolai had kept his promise. Every wrong was repaid. every debt collected. The family that had believed themselves untouchable learned what it meant to face someone truly untouchable. But revenge, as satisfying as it was, had become secondary to something else. Amara turned as she heard footsteps behind her. Nikolai stood in the doorway, a glass of wine in each hand. One red for him, one white for her. He had memorized her preferences within the first week. Never forgot. Never would forget for as long as he existed. "You are thinking again," he said, handing her the glass. "I can always tell. You get this little crease between your eyebrows. Very human. Very endearing." Amara smiled. "I was thinking about how strange life is. 6 months ago I was trapped in a nightmare marriage, texting my mother for help. And now you are trapped with a 1,000-year-old vampire who cannot stop buying you art supplies." Nikolai grinned. "Truly a lateral move at best." Amara laughed. The sound still surprised her sometimes. She had forgotten she could laugh like that. Free and light and unburdened. Rebecca appeared in the doorway behind Nikolai. She had become something like a sister to Amara over these months. Protective and fierce and surprisingly good at choosing paint colors. "Are you two being disgustingly romantic again?" Rebecca rolled her eyes. "Elijah owes me $50. I told him you would not last a month without becoming completely insufferable." Nikolai turned to his sister with mock offense. "I have always been insufferable. This is simply a more focused version." Amara watched them banter. This strange immortal family that had adopted her without question. Elijah with his quiet wisdom and perfectly pressed suits. Rebecca with her sharp tongue and unexpected kindness. And Nikolai. Her monster. Her protector. Her unexpected love. He had kept every promise. Every single one. When she felt overwhelmed, he gave her space. When she needed closeness, he held her without being asked. When old fears surfaced and she pushed him away, he waited patiently until she was ready to pull him back. It was not perfect. Nothing involving a 1,000-year-old vampire could be perfect. He still had enemies. Still had darkness in him that surfaced when someone threatened those he loved. Just last month he had discovered that one of Preston's distant cousins had been making inquiries about Amara's location. The cousin had received a visit that left him so terrified he moved to another continent and changed his name. Nikolai never told her the details. She never asked. Some things were better left in shadows. But here, on this balcony, in this moment, none of that mattered. Amara pulled out her phone. Nikolai raised an eyebrow. "What are you doing, little bride?" She smiled at the nickname. He had never stopped calling her that. Even though she had signed divorce papers months ago. Even though she was free from Preston in every legal sense. She was still his little bride. And somehow that felt right. She opened her messages and found the conversation that had started everything. The accidental text. His reply. The beginning of their impossible story. "I want to read something," she said. Nikolai moved closer, looking at the screen. Amara read aloud. "He broke my arm. Said I am his slave now and my family cannot do anything." She paused. "And then your reply. This is not your mother. But I am going to help you anyway." Nikolai was quiet. The memory of that night hung between them. The fear. The desperation. The moment when fate had intervened in the most unexpected way. "You know what I think about sometimes?" Amara looked up at him. "What if I had sent that text to the right number? What if my mother had received it instead of you?" Nikolai considered the question. Your mother would have called the police. They would have arrived hours later. Preston's family would have paid them off. You would have been returned to your husband with instructions to be more obedient. Amara nodded. That is exactly what would have happened. My mother loved me, but she was powerless. Everyone in my life was powerless. She reached up and touched his face. Except you. Nikolai leaned into her touch. The same gesture from months ago. But different now. Deeper. More certain. I told you once that I am not a hero, he said quietly. That has not changed. I am still a monster. I will always be a monster. I know. Amara smiled. But you are my monster. And you use that darkness to protect instead of destroy. At least when it comes to me. Nikolai pulled her closer. His arms wrapping around her with the careful gentleness he had learned over these months. I will spend eternity protecting you. That is not a promise. It is simply a fact. Like gravity. Like the sunrise. Like my sister's inability to stop meddling in my personal life. From inside, Rebecca called out. I heard that. You were meant to, Nikolai called back. Amara laughed again. This strange beautiful life she had stumbled into. This family of immortals who had accepted her as one of their own. This man who had crossed centuries of pain and guilt to become someone worthy of love. Nikolai, she said softly. Yes, little bride? She looked into his ancient eyes. The eyes that had seen empires rise and fall. The eyes that had witnessed unspeakable horrors and committed more than a few. The eyes that now looked at her like she was the most precious thing in 1,000 years of existence. I love you. The words hung in the air. She had not said them before. Not directly. They had danced around the phrase for months. Showing instead of telling. Actions instead of words. But now she said it. Simply. Honestly. Without fear. Nikolai was still for a long moment. Then something in his expression shifted. The ancient walls crumbled just a little more. The monster receded and the man emerged. I have lived for over 1,000 years, he said slowly. I have been loved before. Briefly. Tragically. But no one in 10 centuries has ever made me feel the way you do. He pressed his forehead against hers. I love you, Amara. More than revenge. More than legacy. More than the immortal life that stretches endlessly before me. You are my unexpected gift. My accidental miracle. My little bride who texted the wrong number and changed everything. Amara felt tears sliding down her cheeks. Happy tears this time. The only kind she cried anymore. So what happens now? She whispered. Nikolai smiled. That familiar crooked smile that had terrified enemies and charmed allies for centuries. Now we live. For as long as you want. However you want. The world is ours, little bride. Every sunrise you can watch and I cannot. Every adventure you dream of. Every quiet evening on this balcony. All of it. Yours. And when I grow old, then I will love you old. And when I die. Nikolai's jaw tightened. The old fear flickered in his eyes. The terror of losing her that would never fully fade. Amara touched his face. I am not asking you to turn me. Not yet. Maybe not ever. I am just asking what you will do. Nikolai was quiet for a long moment. Then he spoke. The most honest words he had ever offered. If you choose to remain human, I will cherish every single day we have. Every gray hair. Every wrinkle. Every sign that you are living a full natural life. And when you go, I will grieve you for eternity. But I will not regret a single moment. Because loving you, even briefly, even temporarily, is worth more than 1,000 years alone. Amara kissed him then. Soft and warm and full of all the words neither of them needed to say. When they finally pulled apart, the sun was beginning to set, painting the sky in shades of orange and golden pink. Nikolai stepped back from the balcony, retreating to the shadows where the light could not reach him. Amara stayed at the railing, watching the sunset he could never fully enjoy. But she felt him there, behind her, watching her watch the sky. And somehow that was enough. That is the thing about unexpected love. It does not arrive when you plan it. It does not look like you imagined. Sometimes it comes through a wrong number at the darkest moment of your life. Sometimes it wears the face of a monster who has spent centuries learning to be better. Sometimes it asks you to trust when trust seems impossible and to hope when hope has died. But when it arrives, when it finally arrives, it changes everything. Amara had sent a text to the wrong number. And that mistake had led her to the right person. Nikolai had spent 1,000 years carrying guilt and grief. And one accidental message had given him a chance at redemption. They were not a perfect couple. They would never be a perfect couple. But they were perfect for each other. Broken pieces that somehow fit together. Two survivors who had found each other across the vast chaos of the universe. And that, in the end, was the greatest love story of all. Not the one that begins with perfection, but the one that begins with pain and grows into something beautiful despite everything. Amara turned from the sunset and walked back into the shadows where Nikolai waited. He took her hand. And together, they walked into whatever came next. Now I need to talk to you directly. Yes, you. The one who just watched this entire story unfold. The one who felt something when Nikolai showed up at that estate. The one who held their breath when Amara walked away and released it when she came back. I poured my heart into this story. Every word. Every twist. Every moment of pain and redemption. I stayed up late crafting this for you because I believed you would appreciate it. And I think you did. I think you felt something real watching these two broken souls find each other. So here is what I am asking. One click. That is all. One click on the subscribe button. One click on the like button. It takes you less than a second, but it means the world to me. It tells me that these late nights are worth it. That these stories matter. That someone out there cares about the work I am putting into this channel. Do not be the person who watches the whole video and leaves without subscribing. Do not ghost me after everything we just shared. I see you there. I know you made it to the end. That means you are not a casual viewer. You are part of this community. You belong here. So hit that subscribe button. Join the fastest growing vampire love stories family on YouTube. We have so many more stories planned. So many more Nikolais and Amaras waiting to find each other. So many more twists and tears and triumphs. And drop a comment telling me where you are watching from. I want to know. Are you in bed at 2 in the morning unable to sleep? Are you on your lunch break stealing a few minutes of escape? Are you riding the bus or waiting in line or hiding from the world for just a little while? Tell me. I read every single comment. Every single one. Because you are not just a viewer to me. You are the reason I do this. So subscribe. Like. Comment. And I will see you in the next story.